Hello everyone, good afternoon. Excuse me, it's very hot here at the moment, so I'm using this fan. I've come on here today because I thought about talking about my experiences, my spiritual experiences, the profound ones that I've had. I have told a couple of people about it, a few people in the past, but I wanted everyone to know about it because what it does is it alleviates any fear of anyone that's going to pass and things like that. You know, the more that people hear about these spiritual experiences, whether they be near-death experiences or just dream state experiences, or you know, ones that you have during trance, whatever they are. But all of mine, well, mostly, have been through dream state and being in the trance. So I'm going to talk to you about the first major one that I had, and that was when I started at Kay's Circle many years ago, and we were all sitting. It must have been about September, October, so it was a dark evening, and we were all sitting in her room, you see, so there must have been about 6 or 7 of us in there, and everyone witnessed it. So some of us were in the trance and some of us were out, so Kay was looking after us. And what happened was, I didn't remember going, I didn't remember coming back. I have no, memory of getting out of my body or coming back into my body. So it was quite amazing that maybe a couple of hours or more I could remember every detail that had happened to me, like it just happened instantly. So when I went away from my body, what I felt was very fast, but also very profound and very clear. And so what happened was, I found myself up in the clouds. Everything was kind of softened down, yet so clear at the same time. So I see the clouds, I see like another sky above the clouds sort of thing. There was nothing else there, only me, and I saw what looked like Jesus. He had brown hair parted in the middle, quite dark, and it cascaded in waves down to about his collarbone, I think. And I remember it so clearly. He had blue eyes, a beard and moustache, as you'll see him with, and he had a kind of a muslin gown. It was like an off-white. It wasn't white. It was like a cheesecloth kind of style, but not, if you know what I mean. And I looked at his fingers. It was simple. It was like I had a zoom in vision and a zoom out vision. It was so strange. It was like I could see up so close, yet I must have been about 8 or 9 feet away, maybe more. I couldn't kind of guess the amount of distance I was away, but it was away, and I was looking to the left as it happened. And then I was able to kind of zoom into his hands, and then I see the sleeves of the gown, and it draped over his hands, but it almost seemed like it was too big for him, yet it was perfect. And it draped over his fingers, so I could see his hands just resting by his sides. He didn't have his hands up in the air, and he just turned his head and looked at me, and I looked at him. There was no smile, no words spoken, anything, because it all happened so fast. And then I must have got back into my body. I don't remember getting back into it. I don't know if Jonathan was still speaking in the trance. I really can't remember that part. So strange. And then all of a sudden we were all in the room, some of us in trance, some of us out. And then the whole house vibrated. Now, it wasn't an earthquake because nobody had any earthquakes. It was just a quiet little cul-de-sac. And she had quite a big house, Kay, so we were in kind of a little converted garage. So it shook, and it was quite late at night, so, no one was out there doing anything, explosions or anything like that. And the whole house shook. So she got up and she said, "Goodness me, what was that? I'll just leave the circle for a minute, Spirit, and we'll go and have a check." All the lights except the room we were sitting in had turned on internally in the house, and all the doors had flown open. So she went to have a look and see if her husband was there. He'd gone out, and just the two little dogs were barking and going mad. And that was the experience that I had. So I assumed that when I'd come back into my body, that the energy of actually seeing Jesus was so powerful and profound that when that energy left, it caused like a profound shaking of the building to happen. It must have been a huge energy. So it was amazing. So the next experience, so you want to talk to me?
Oh, okay, yeah. How did you feel after that experience? Did you feel scared by it, or how did you feel like it?
No, I didn't feel scared at all. It all happened so fast. It all happened so fast that, I couldn't really remember at that point of getting out of my body. So it must have taken a couple of hours or more to remember the profound experience. All I did was wake up and I was still in the trance. My guide must have been still speaking, and that's when the house shook, and we all were shocked. We all came to and like, what the heck was that? She was shocked.
Yeah.
She thought perhaps it might be some sort of earth movement or something, but the lights switching on and the doors flying open couldn't possibly be. It was so strange as I remembered it.
Yeah, I was going to say, before you move on to the next one, a lot of people seem, including myself, seem to have their most experiences with spirit while they're children. Did you have any while you was a child or anything?
No. The only experience I had when I was a child, I was about 14 years old, and I know I was in a children's care home then, and I was about to leave there and be fostered up here where I live. And I was in a sleep state, and I felt somebody distinctly sit on the end of my bed. And I felt the bed go down, so I woke up with a start, and I thought, well, is there anybody there? There was nobody there, and shortly after that, I moved out of the children's home and was brought down here to be fostered. And I guess a year after that, my brother passed, so I don't know if it was a warning about my brother, or whether it was an experience that they were to say that I was going to leave there and everything would be all right, Mm. That was my childhood experience, but nothing before that. I'd never seen any spirits, never knew anything about spirits. I just distinctly felt someone sit on the end of the bed. And it's a bit of a strange feeling because the bed went down, but once I woke up and come to, I kind of left it at that and forgot about it.
Yeah.
So the next experience after that, I won't list them in complete order because there's gaps between those experiences, and there's only ever two really massive, profound ones in my life that I experienced. One more recently. So I know that one of the experiences I was doing a demo in Essex over a weekend, and I had a lady come into the room, and my guide must have said to her that he was going to do some healing on her. So he took her hands, held her hands, and what I experienced was I found myself in this building, and it was all like a green marble, pillars and steps and everything. So I was there. I didn't kind of walk into the building, I just was there. And so I just stood there as an observer, and I found that there was a woman opposite in a corner, and there were plants in there, and there was a pool in there, very kind of shallowish pool, and it was an oval shape, and the stairs were very shallow, and it went all round from end to end of the pool. Well, the woman with the pot, she had a white gown on. She almost kind of looked like she was from Roman times, but she had a pot on her shoulder, and she had leaves in her hair, and she just walked not noticing me. I was in the other corner of the room. And Jonathan was there, and he took the woman's hands and he said to her, come into the water and be washed clean. So they had clothes on, they didn't have bathing suits or anything like that on. And my guide stepped into the water dressed, and he said to her, lay down in the water and be cleansed. So she reciprocated and she laid down in the water. And as I looked towards the window, it was like an open plan, great big open plan window at the opposite side of the room. And everything was made of marble, and outside there was no ground. It was all clouds. And they were kind of drifting into the room, the clouds, and outside there was no earth, so everything was ethereal, and there was no gravity. So everything outside was just clouds, and that was amazing. And then it just kind of sunk back and disappeared as he said, we're coming back now. You see? There are other profound experiences that I'll tell you about. In dream state, I had an experience with my mother and father. Now, my father was still living at that time, and my mother was in spirit. So I found myself in this hospital, and I was about to say goodbye to them. And my mother was there, and she looked perfectly well in the bed. She had her makeup on, and she had her hair done, and she looked lovely. She looked so happy. And at the left-hand side of the bed, which would have been the right-hand side to her, my father was there, leaning over the bed and smiling, and he looked a bit younger, sort of in his 50s. And he said, well, my mum said, aren't you going to come and say goodbye then? And I thought, well, I don't want to give him the kiss in case I give him anything, you know. And the place looked so pristine clean, and they looked so happy. And then that kind of disappeared, and I found myself round the corner in the hospital, but a kind of a side ward. And she was in the bed, curled up, and I was laying down, and the sheets were kind of creased, but crisp and clean. And she wrapped her back and her legs around my knees, so we had her knees up. And she put her knees behind mine and curled up behind me like that. And I said to her, Mum, I don't want you and Dad to go. And she just said, you'll be all right. And then it all disappeared. Yeah.
So, is there much of a difference between feeling these experiences while you're in trance and feeling them in a dream state?
Yeah, because it's about the same both ways. Because within a dream state, you're kind of more accepting of it, and within a trance, it goes faster.
Yeah.
It goes faster. So it's like, boom, like that, and it's like a full playing movie. So that's how it was, and it disappeared. So it probably only took a few seconds. Then of course, let's go back to this Essex thing. The next woman came in. She come all the way over from Ireland, so he decided that she needed, my guide rather, decided that she needed some healing. So he said, well, no cost to where we're going, take my hands. And honestly, it was so clear again, so profound. We were up in the clouds again. Was that door banging?
It's okay.
Hang on a minute, everyone. So we were up in the clouds again, and so Jonathan was there, and I was kind of a spectator again. So Jonathan, I think, was over that side, and the lady was over this side, and her father stepped forward. I think he was a man with glasses on. He had a suit on. I should imagine perhaps he had his funeral in it, And he come forward. He wasn't that tall, around about 5'8" or something like that. And his daughter saw him, so he came from the right of me, and his daughter was to the left of me. So she recognised him, and she put her arms out, and they hugged. And then they seemed to very quickly move back. So she stayed there. So then he put his right arm across like that and looked over. And as I looked over, there was a massive pool of cloud turning in slow motion. It was absolutely huge. And I looked shocked, and I thought, wow, that must be the entrance to heaven that he's pointing to. And then at that moment, Jonathan said, we have to go back now. And it all kind of sucked in, and we went back into the room, but it was so clear, so profound, I couldn't deny it. Now, both times I came back from those healings, I came back emotional because I wanted to stay there, and it was so profound that it made me emotional. That I'd seen these visions, during healing. And sometimes when people have healing, not all the time, but when they have healing, I can hear whispering going on in the background, but it's kind of very faint, so you can hear it, but you've got to really listen carefully to make it out. Now, what was the other experience? Oh yes, there have been many actually. The other experience I had was in a dream state, and that was with my father. So I was in the dream. I don't know quite where I was, but I put my finger up. I put my hand up and I could see a finger there. So I grabbed the finger. I thought, oh, that's solid, that's real. So this was after he passed, obviously, and all of a sudden I felt a hand take my hand, and we flew back to the hospital where he spent a lot of time. And so I found myself in the hospital washing him and dressing him. I thought, well, why am I doing this? Because he's gone now. He should be happy. He should be showing me himself happy. So all of a sudden he left, and I cried out, Dad, why did you leave me here? Why did you leave me here in this place? Surely you're happy. And then it just ended. It seemed to me that he was telling me that he didn't need to be there anymore, that he was happy and that he'd moved on. Now let's try and, because none of these are in order, I might add, of these experiences, and I don't want to go on forever because you might get bored with listening to them, but another experience which was quite profound early on in my start of the mediumship. My foster father had passed over a few years before, and so one night I found myself in my mother's home. Now she was still alive at this time, and so was my dad, so they were still there. And this was in the night. I was dreaming, and I went into their house, and I went into the front room where we used to sit. Well, there was no furniture in there, and I thought, well, where's all the furniture gone? It's dark in here. But there was one leather chair that was a recliner, a red leather chair that he used to sit on. And it was an old one, so my mother had moved it into the bedroom and used it there. And then all of a sudden, thunder and lightning started to strike. So I thought, well, this is a bit scary. I don't like it. There's no furniture in this room. There's just that chair. There's just me. I'm a bit scared because it's lightning, thunder outside. And then all of a sudden, I thought, well, don't be afraid. So I see a sleeping bag on the floor, and I thought, well, there's no bed here, so I'll lay in here and lay down on that. I got up and I thought, well, I'll go in this recliner chair. This looks more comfortable. And as I got up to go in the recliner chair, his name was Mervyn, so this grey figure started appearing in the chair and forming. And I thought, wow, that's Mervyn. So he fully formed in the chair physically, and then he put his hand out to me. So he had quite rough hands because he was a fisherman in his day, and he was always working in the shed. So he had quite large, hard working hands. So I touched his hand, and it felt solid. And he looked overjoyed. He smiled and he cried at the same time. So it was like, wow, I've got through. I've made a connection. So they weren't upset tears, they were tears of joy, and it was tears of joy from me because I touched his hand. So I remember in the dream calling my mother and father out, hey, come and look at this. And they said, oh, what now? And as they said, what now, he turned grey and sunk back into the chair and disappeared. It was so weird. It was so weird. So there have been lots of other experiences.
You've given a lot of other people profound experiences. What would you say were some of the most memorable ones?
What, for other people or for me?
For other people, through you, because you do give a lot of profound experiences to people in readings or when you've come across them at shows or events.
Well, I'll give you one. We went to the Rugby Church in Warwickshire. I think it's in Warwickshire, isn't it? Well, anyway, we went up there and we had a congregation of people, and my guide offered some healing. So the lady came up. I think she must have been in her 80s, and I didn't know because I couldn't see her until afterwards. So he asked her to sit down, and she had the healing. And at first he held her hands, and then he asked her if she'd lean forward to put her head in the hand, you know. So of course he was using my hands, but his energy. So she had her healing and thought nothing more about it. And I went back there again, about a year later. So she came to the church again, and she said, she stood up in the church, and she said, I must say this to everybody. I came here last year and had some healing with Jonathan. And she said, I suffered all my life with migraines and sickness because it would cause me to actually be sick. And I thought, poor woman, she suffered all her life with that. And she said, well, Jonathan gave me the healing and I've not had one migraine and any bout of sickness since. And that's a year.
Yeah.
Whether she's like that now or is she still here with us, I don't know, because it was a few years ago. And she hadn't had any migraines or sickness since he touched her head. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And then a few of them had kind of had experiences where they felt they'd gone to sleep and they'd seen the universe, two ladies. They had healing with him and they'd experienced kind of being a total peace with no worries at all. Their worries had gone. And that they were floating about in a blue, black ink kind of universe with stars, and they were at so much peace. And the two women had healing right after each other, and they experienced similar experiences of that.
Yeah, one of my most profound experiences was when I went to one of your circles, and there was actually objects flying around the room.
Oh yes.
As unbelievable as that sounds, it would go from one side of the lounge, this glow stick, to the other top corner of the lounge within milliseconds, faster than a human could do it. And then the glow sticks were coming towards us. Obviously, you think it could have been a negative spirit attached to someone in the circle.
Yeah.
But I wondered, how did that feel as a medium? Obviously, you don't do physical mediumship really now, but how did that feel as a medium, that going through you?
Well, I just kind of knew that the energy wasn't coming from me because, well, some physical mediums, well, most physical mediums go into deep trance, and there are the few that aren't. Like Leslie Flinter remained awake when he had direct voice, and he'd be, integrate with the group. But I felt kind of anticipated, excited, but doubtful about it, simply because of the way I felt in the trance. But it was like an amazing experience that a spirit could come in and do that sort of thing and have that power to do that.
Yeah,
Of course, in my dad's circle, things like that would happen all the time. They'd happen all the time, and it was a profound experience just to experience. We were never allowed to touch the trumpet because of the medium, but we were allowed to just sit there and allow things to come to us. And I remember it was about a year after my brother passed, and the trumpet flew at a speed over to me. It was even with one person, then it went shh, and it was there. And I thought, crikey, that was quick. Yeah. So I thought, well, there's got to be something attached to that. There's got to be someone holding that. So I thought, well, the only way I'm going to analyse it is to find out that if this luminous paint is at the end of the trumpet, that you hold it. If a human solid hand is going to cover it, it's going to cover the paint. Well, there was no covered paint.
No, when I was there was nothing around it at all. It was just a glow stick in front of you, and that was it, moving towards you.
I thought,
it was flying around the room.
It's so strange. It's so strange to think that energy could form that. It's very, very clever.
Yeah.
There are a lot of physical mediums that I've heard. Well, not a lot, but a few physical mediums that have had those experiences happen in their circles, like Kaimuga, and I hope I've pronounced it right, but well, I've never sat with him, but everyone says good things about it. But this other experience that I had most recently was I woke up one morning, and usually at that time of the morning, around about 7:30, 8 o'clock, I don't bother going back to sleep. And I'd had my brother's death certificate given to me by my sister, and it said on it the 18th of January. So I thought, well, his birthday wasn't 18th of January, it was the 28th. And both my parents would say the 28th, so I thought they might have made a mistake. So I said, please, to my brother, can you come and prove to me that you were born on the 28th of January? Well, the morning this happened to me, it was the 27th of January. So I suppose them not, thinking about time, he came the day before the 28th, which was as close as he could possibly get. And so after that, I believed it was the 28th of January, because it was closer to the 18th than the 27th, so I had the experience.
Yeah.
So it was weird, because I thought I'll just lay down here for a minute, and the next minute I knew I was asleep. So I felt myself walking along the local town, and I could see into an old cafe that used to be there that was no longer there. And it was called Chat and Chew. You remember that place, don't you? Chat and Chew, which is now the hairdressers there, the men's hairdressers. And I could see the people through the window, and the door was shut, and I could hear all their conversations. Yeah, and it started to rain, so I put my hood up and I thought, oh no, it's going to rain. I thought, wait a minute, I can hear all their conversations. And then all of a sudden that disappeared, and I found myself going up to the big shopping centre, which is called Westwood here, and they have them all over the country. And the pavement's quite wide, so I was just walking along on my own, couldn't see anybody else about. And it felt so profound, so real, that I was convinced that I was there. I was convinced, and I'm sure many of you have had those lucid dreams.
Yeah.
So I'm always watching the sky anyway. Always been a bit of a sky watcher in my life, even as a child. So I looked up at the sky, and I thought, oh, that looks a bit weird. Clouds seem to be moving a bit fast. Perhaps there's a storm brewing or something. I thought, well, I hope it isn't going to rain, because I haven't got an umbrella, and I'm just on my way up there. And then all of a sudden these white pointy prong-like things were appearing above the clouds. I thought, what the heck are they? Oh my goodness, I thought, what's happening to the sky? This is weird, I'd never experienced this before, and I was getting a bit, uneasy about it. But I didn't run, because I, somehow didn't feel scared, but I just thought, oh my God, what is it? And then all of a sudden these clouds just opened, and I've never seen anything like it. There were hundreds and hundreds of what looked like body shapes, but they were all lit up with like a golden white light that was so bright. They had no features, and they were all in curved like rows. Like when you sit in a church, there's choir and it comes around like that, and all the choir kids sit in rows, don't they? Well, it was all these souls that were in rows, and they were all lit up like beads of bigger to life. Oh my goodness, I was so happy. So I ran towards it, and all of a sudden my brother appeared. He had a white suit on. He came out of all those beings and appeared as like, so I could recognise him, and he hadn't changed a bit. So he kind of appeared, and his arms seemed really, really long, like Mr. Tickle Arms. And I felt myself run and lift off of the ground, and I thought, wow, I'm home. I'm so happy I'm home. And I shout out his name. And I thought, wow, I'm home. So his arms wrapped around me, but he was kind of physical but not physical. Enough for me to hold him, but kind of transparent. And the arms were swiggling and wrapping around me. And all of a sudden, gone, and I was back in my body and awake. And I remember phoning my friend Alan, and he was the first one that I spoke to about it, because he'd experienced things in his, in his time. He said he'd walked amongst the souls, and couldn't tell what their sexes were because they were just lit up. And that's exactly how I'd seen them. There was no features. They're all lit up brightly, but body shapes. And he must have thought, well, I'll fool myself. And after that, that's when he gave me the information. That was when he was born. And I thought, wow, that is just absolutely incredible. I don't think I'd seen or had anything from him for years and years and years. And it was well worth the wait, people, because, you know, if you have your loved one and they don't contact you for years, you know, and you all of a sudden you get this profound experience, and, you know, like, it's worth the wait because it's everything. But I'll give you one more of my experiences, which happened after my children's grandfather passed away, and that was my father-in-law back then. And I missed him terribly. You know, I was a very, you know, that hit me quite hard that he had passed at only 52 years old. So I went to sleep one night, and I know that I dreamt of him before he died and after he passed over. So I found myself in a room. Now, it wasn't a room that I recognised, and there was a little bar there, and he was sitting on the stool at the bar having a drink. And I said to him, "Oh, hello, Tom. How you doing?" and all that. That all disappeared. And then the next minute, we were in a school, and there was nobody at the school. It was totally empty, just me and him. So I stood outside one of the classrooms, and he said to me, and he had a white shirt on and some blue trousers, jogging bottoms, I think they were, that he always wore, didn't he, Tom? So he said to me, "I've got to go now." And I said to him, "Well, I don't want you to go." And I started to cry, and I said, "Oh," he said, "Well, I have to." So I put my arms around him, and I'm not kidding. He was as physical as you or I. The shirt and everything, I felt his gut, and I gripped a piece of the shirt, and I thought, he's alive. I can feel his physical body. It was real. As live as you and me. So, you know, we do not die. Our bodies die, obviously, but our souls don't die. Another experience I had was with my partner's father, who we lost a few years ago. And I found myself in an old warehouse. It looked like they sold things in there. And we were at the back of this warehouse. And at the back of it had like 1 or 2 steps up to another kind of level. And on that level, on like a parapet bit, I saw his father. And he was dressed in a white suit. So I went up to him, and I wrapped my arms around him, and he said sorry, because he had dementia, and, you know, I think he was, poked the stick at me and said, "Oh, you know." And he said sorry, and I wrapped my arms around him, and I could also feel his physical body. It was solid. It was solid as you or I. So, and that's twice with him. The second time I saw him, the suit was too big. And I thought, how come he's got a suit that's too big? And he walked past me. So it was amazing how all these profound experiences, and more I might add, but I won't give all of them today, but all those experiences and more that I've had. I mean, there have been experiences which I expect you've had as people, where I've kind of dozed off in the afternoon but not been quite asleep, and all of a sudden I've had a kind of static or electric sound in my head, and I've been in here dozing, and I've found myself in the other room where I do the readings, and then I've heard the sound in my ears and my head, and I've shot back in here, not knowing how I've got in here. So it's, you know, like profound experiences like that. But the heavenly ones that I've had, I could say out of all my experiences, they're all beautiful and profound, but the 2 most profound ones were the ones that I had where I saw Jesus and where I saw my brother like that. The other profound one is where I dreamt of Jonathan. I waited 10 years, and I always asked him to come and see me, so he came to see me. He was dressed in, he had a white cravat on, and the white bib piece that they used to wear in them times. He had a waist jacket which went down to just past his back of his knees, and he had a high level trousers on, but they didn't seem to match the suit, yet they looked good with the suit, but they looked like riding trousers, you know. And high boots. So he took, we went down these stairs and there was these people dressed similar like him. So I don't know, they were all aspects of him, but they were all right. I thought, oh, this is weird. And we were in this great big massive building with great big high ceilings, like higher than you'd ever known. Walked down the stairs and he just stood there in front of me. And I looked at him and he looked at me, and no words needed to be said. He just, he had a tea tray, like a silver tea tray in his hand. And it had one of those little modern tea lights on it. And he leaned it to the side. I thought, any minute now this place is going to go up. If that candle drops off there, it'll catch fire. But what the message was, and he smiled at me. And it was all said in the smile. So I looked at the tea tray and then I realised that I didn't trust him, you know, and I had to trust in him more. So the tea tray was that, you know, it was true because it was silver. The tea light was the light that he came from, and the leaning of the tray was the mistrust that I had in him. So he was saying trust in me because I am from the light. Yeah. So, you know, if your guides give you symbolic messages, or your loved ones give you symbolic messages in your dreams, try to decipher them, because that is sometimes the way they give the messages to you, and or in your meditation, don't matter what it is, but that's how they give it to you, symbolically.
Yeah, I know when you do readings and shows, I know you can hear some stuff but can't remember other things. What does it feel like when spirit makes a great connection with someone and they give them evidence that's sort of undeniable?
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. It makes me really happy, because I know then I can trust more. I can trust, and I think, wow, now if they can do that, what else can they do? And if I let go, what else can they deliver? So when that happens, there are people that connect better than others, and their spirit loved ones can connect easier to them because they're open to it. And there are others that don't connect so well. It's not their fault that they don't connect so well. Maybe they're not so open, or they're a little bit nervous, or it's perhaps not the right time to receive them. So, you know, it differs with everybody. But when you get just at least one thing, one bit of evidence, that's, to any medium, that makes them happy, and they know they've done it right, and they can trust a bit more and let go.
What do you think like Jonathan's purpose is? Because it's obviously great when he gives philosophy to people to help them get through life, but at the same time, when he touches an individual, it can be life changing for them. So what do you think it can? What do you think his purpose coming to us is mainly?
Well, to take our fear away and to send us on our own spiritual journey. You know, because some people come to me, and I had one man come to me and he said, "Oh, I believe now." I thought, well, that's made me so happy, because now he believes, and now he's going to look at life differently and know that he hasn't got any fear when he goes across. So, he's changed their lives with healing, and he's changed their lives with the information that he gives, and some of the things that he says come true, and people have come back to me and said, wow, that's come true. Yeah, this happened, that happened. I think, wow, that's cool, Yeah. And whatever they do is cool, so but humans have our doubts, and we want more information, we crave for more. Well, they don't mind that. Yeah. They're quite happy, but you will hang on to all your profound spirit experiences all of your life. You'll never ever forget them.
No.
You can't forget them.
You two do your Zoom events together. Have you got anything to add, Lucy? What was your most profound experience during these Zooms?
We've had quite a lot, haven't we?
Yeah.
I think the more recent one that shocked me and everyone else that was in the event was, we had a lady that was one of the guests in the Zoom event, and on the first half of them we go through and I'll call everyone's names out when Jonathan's in, and everyone gets to take their turn to ask a question to Jonathan, albeit a personal or a general question. It's entirely up to them. And I called out this particular lady to ask her question, and before she could even finish her sentence or her question, Jonathan brought her son through that had passed many years ago, and that was fascinating to witness. And everyone else in the Zoom event was completely taken aback and shocked by it. And this lady, bless her, she said it was all happy tears, and it was such a beautiful thing for her to have, but she was in tears as well, bless her. And I thought it just, a few things like that have happened, but that's the most recent one that sticks with me at the minute. But
yeah, I don't remember it myself,
No.
but because you forget, you see.
Yeah.
See a lot of people on there and you kind of forget, but it is good that you've remembered that, and thanks for telling them that, because then you get someone that you truly love and your heart's broken and you miss them terribly, and all you want is a sign somehow. And a lot of people go to so many mediums and they don't get what they want. It's not that the medium's bad, it's just that they have no time in the spirit world, and they come to you when they feel the time's exactly right. And they don't care about how many years pass by, because they know that when they do eventually come, you're going to think, wow, I've waited years, that was worth it. Like I did with my brother.
Do you think it's hard for spirits at first to connect?
Well, yeah, they've got to come down from the realms of spirit. They've got to come through our gravitational energy. They've got to connect through a medium. And they've got to connect from the spirit world to a medium through to this person that's like sitting for the reading, so they've got to get through them as well. So they've got all that energy to get through. And it can't be easy for some of them. They have to practice it.
Yeah.
It can't be easy. But I'm now finding that more often than not, it is getting stronger with people, because I was on there the other day and they've got a page on there. A lovely man runs it. He's absolutely lovely. It's called the Nothing Fancy Spiritual Church, and he runs it on a Sunday. Twice I've been on there, and I thought, just by chance it came up, and just by chance I thought, I don't know, I'll have a listen. First time Dad come through, spot on. The man couldn't even see me. He didn't even know who I was, and he got everything spot on with my father. Well, I cried because it was emotional. A few days ago, we had a bereavement in the family, and it was just before the funeral came up, literally I think the day before. So I turned the Nothing Fancy Spiritual Church on Facebook. It's on there if you want to go on there. And Ben Aylward or something runs it, I think. So I thought, I don't know, I'll turn it on again. I just think it didn't stop the thing, I just turned it on. So I turned it on, and the woman started speaking. She got spot on evidence about my mother, and no one would have known this stuff. Even that she used to do this with her hair. Do you remember? She used to stand in the mirror. Tom, I don't know if you remember. You might have been a bit. And she used to do that with her hair. Well, there's not many people do that with their hair, and she always did it. Every time she came out of that bathroom, she did this with her hair. Well, she wasn't a vain woman. She was very beautiful. But that woman got it spot on. And she couldn't see me. She didn't even know who I was. She'd never known about me or anything. And that just absolutely threw me. She even mentioned butterflies. And I know butterflies go to many people, but you've got to go with it. You've got to trust it. It's beautiful. There's some amazing mediums out there. We all have the ability to get in touch with spirit. So do take note of your profound experiences. You'll always be able, you won't even have to write them down, because you'll always be able to remember them. But you forget about stuff here, which may be like trivial, unimportant things. But that's never trivial and unimportant. It's just something else. So we do like to be informal about these things, because they're just wonderful. But what we're going to do tomorrow evening, isn't it? We're going live on the Facebook page tell them which one it is, because you know what I'm like.
If you go to Elaine Thorpe, Trance Medium Spiritual Artist, tomorrow evening, so that'll be the 3rd of August around 9 p.m, as part of this video, but Elaine's going to go on live on Facebook, and you'll be able to ask her questions about her experiences. Hopefully we're going to be able to let people join and chat to her briefly about their experiences and any questions they'd like to ask on live.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope as many of you can join us. But also, I believe there is still a few tickets left for next month's Zoom events.
Yeah.
Which is like a small gathering. If you haven't been to one, they're a small gathering, 10 to 12 people, and everyone gets to ask their question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you'd like to have a ticket for that, it's elainethorpe.com. And also you're in Eltham next week on the 10th, is it? 10th
No, September the 10th, Eltham Spiritualist Church in London. So I'm there if you want to come and see me there. If you're in London or around, you're welcome to come along. Absolutely lovely people at that church. I went there last year. Lovely people. They're welcome. They put on a spread of food and.
Do people need to buy tickets for that pre-book?
Yeah, I think they do. I'm not quite sure. They probably do have a website. If you just type in Eltham Spiritualist Church, you'll probably come up with a website. I think about £20 because they put a big spread of food on afterwards.
Yeah.
They're lovely people. Nothing's too much for them. So, if you want to come along, you're welcome to. I'll have to find out about the other place that's in London, but that's a lot smaller, so I think she organises that anyway. But yeah, welcome to come along. And I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow evening. Hopefully it won't be too hot. We've all had enough of this heat, and then we'll be complaining it's too cold in a minute. So
yeah.
I don't know. Your friend Shane has a thing going on. If our friend,
Shane Ford, he's a friend of my Facebook, and he makes his own music. Now he's gone on DJ Khaled, isn't it? If you go on his page, you want to vote for him, you can,
Yeah, it's www.pridesworld.com, and everyone gets a free vote if you'd like to vote for him. He makes music, and a lot of it is to do with his spiritual journey.
Yes, Pride is in Z, not S.
Yeah,
so when you type in Pride, it's PRIDZ. So,
and on that note, I think we're finished, and we'll see you tomorrow evening at 9 o'clock UK time.
Okay, everyone.
All right.
See you soon.
Thank
Bye.